Kia ora whanau, welcome along to the League and Order podcast. Fresh, clean, beautifully out of Eden Park.
Is it going to happen this week?
Is it going to happen this week? Will this episode actually make it up? Let me welcome in to the studio, first of all, the two gentlemen, Tony Kemp, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Blake Aysford.
Ace.
Look at that, Ace. You've squeezed yourself into that. You look like sausage meat squeezed into a bloody stocking.
It's been a while.
It's cold.
It's been a while.
It's a bit cold.
And joining us from Skype, of course, Lavina Good. Thank you so much, Lavina. Are
Yeah,
you back? You're back home?
Kia ora from Tauranga.
Perfect. Where do we start? I wrote down some notes. So if I say something that generates some type of emotion, by all means, please jump in.
I want to start. Why is he wearing a Tigers jersey, mate? He just came out of the Warriors. Is he sending out an SOS call?
Because they won, maybe?
You know?
I've always got two teams.
He reckons at 10 years old, that jumper.
I've always been here. It's always here in the heart, Tigers. After that great win. We'll get to that.
Look at how the jersey just sort of squishes in when you push at the heart.
155. That's not even his
Mark,
number.
Enough on the jersey, all right? Leave the jersey alone. Leave the jersey alone.
There's been more than 155 West Tigers players there before him, I'm telling you right now.
Very much. Okay. I've written down in my headlines, Titans, Broncos and Warriors get pumped. I'm happy enough to leave the Warriors game there, but if anyone else would like to say anything, I thought the Broncos, when we're talking about teams that look like they've kind of said, you know what, just take it easy on us, the Broncos was one of those teams, and the Warriors, it just felt like, I don't know, there was a certain dropped ball and then everything started dropping.
I just didn't think the effort was there. It's, when you got, Ace was talking about it this morning, when you got wingers taking on the middle of the park and running through and breaking tackles, it says a hell of a lot to your desire to want to make those tackles. And you look at both of those wingers for the side they played against on the weekend, mate. They're not the biggest blokes. They're not Ken Mamalo running back at you. And to break those tackles in and around the middle of the ruck, I was actually watching it and thinking, man, there's no desire. There's no desire to tackle, And that's yes, it's an attitude thing, but it's also a coaching thing too. If your coaches can't get you up, I backed the Warriors to win. I actually honestly thought they were going to come out when they said
I remember that.
They're going to send
I saw that.
They're going to send four guys home, and I thought, they'll probably put in a decent effort and pull together just to say, well, hey boys, we're leaving. We're going to leave everything out on the pitch.
Yeah.
But mate, they all sort of went, well, we all want to go home. I think they were all on the plane. And Todd Payton's coming out and said that. He said, that's the worst performance this year.
Cronulla.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I agree totally. When you've got wingers running straight through the middle, I just think once Paddy Herbert dropped that ball, everyone, I don't know, it just seemed like they weren't, like I tipped them as well. I thought, okay, here, we're in for a big one. And then, it was just disappointing. It wasn't even the first 20 or it was the whole game. I don't know where to go from here. I think Rogers, like I've spoke to you, Kempy, I know there's only about 2 or 3 boys there without their families now once these boys come home. And I know their partners are in Australia somewhere. So Roger's the only one there, or who will be in the camp without his wife, who's back here. And if he leaves, then I think the Warriors are sort of,
he ain't going to leave.
He won't leave. And that's the pressure that he's got as well. He's a captain, and he's got...
He's Tony Montana, mate.
He's got a... Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. And this week, you've got to play the Roosters after a loss. They played Melbourne after a loss, and we've seen what happened.
What are they? $10 or $7?
$10.
$10. Take the $10, mate. Who knows? They generally go wrong against Sydney's. The problem is Sydney City got robbed against Canberra.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's like if Sydney City had just cruised against Canberra, like that would be a different story. They wouldn't be doing that whole, we've got to win this week because look what happened last week and we trained really hard for it. But there is nothing tempting about that $10 other than the fact that it's $10. Do you know what I mean?
The thing that concerned me about the Warriors is it's even before the game, I got your text, Tony, about saying I kind of fancy the Warriors are in with a chance here. And I thought, what are they playing for? So they've lost their coach. They're not playing at home. It's been announced just before the game they're losing 3 to 4 of their key players in the next round. So are they playing to get into the top 8? Are they playing to try and win game by game? Are they trying to prove Gouldy wrong that they won't win 4 games? I mean, you want to play for a premiership. That's what you want to play in the competition. You want to play to win the competition. And I sense from the Warriors' energy out there that they were playing just to stay alive, to just, cling in there and hang in there and see what can happen. And I don't know how many games you can win like that. I've said to you before, if you want to make money on the Warriors, don't bet on them when they're expected to win, like at the weekend against the Sharkies. Bet on them when they're not expected to win. So they're probably in with a chance against the Roosters, to be fair.
Take my $10 then. Take my $10 because
Exactly.
there is no way they're expected to win this week.
The expectation isn't high. But I also, it was a big reminder for me. I don't know how many agreed with me, but when the club lost Shaun Johnson, I remember Shaun when he was only 18 years of age, and I interviewed him, and this is way before any of the Johns brothers came out and said he'd be the next big thing and, look out for this superstar. He was a young kid. He was mature. He was a really good communicator, and I loved him at the club. And I didn't always think you're going to be a clubman for life, but I always thought, you're going to take over Stacey Jones because he kind of, held it up here, and you're in with a chance to try and match what he could do. And when Shaun left the club, I don't think Shaun was out to prove anything at the weekend, but I remember thinking, I'd prefer to play with Shaun Johnson in my Warriors team than play against Shaun Johnson. And he had that sleight of hand, and he was so relaxed. And, the difference between him and Cody, where Cody was trying all the time to prove something, all the time to say, I'm in charge, I'm the orchestrator, I can do it. Whereas for Shaun at the weekend, he's had a wake-up call, and he just looked so comfortable in his own space.
He dusted off the tuxedo.
It's a big wake-up call for me that the Warriors were a better club with Shaun Johnson.
Well, I think that we took for granted how hard it is to get a halfback in the NRL, especially one that's homegrown.
So Brian Smith and Sullivan just thought, we'll be smart buggers and we'll get rid of him.
Well, that's what I mean.
We know New Zealand can't get a halfback, we'll just get rid of him.
But you've got a bloke who's played tests, who's been at the top, and he's in your club. I just think they took for granted his ability and what he brought to the club. He might have had a couple of bad years, or a bad year here, a good year here. It is what everyone goes through. A lot of people go through it. But to get a half at NRL calibre and to have him homegrown and playing for your Warriors, and he wants to be there as well, you're not going to find that.
Lavina, can you not bring up Shaun Johnson and how we used to have him after the way he played in the weekend?
He'll come back.
I feel like
He'll come back.
Voldemort.
Well,
I feel like we can't name him like Voldemort, Don't name him. But I thought it was just evident that the energy in the game, between the two sides, and Shaun looking so comfortable, and me thinking, well, the poor old Warriors, they're playing away from home. They've lost their coach. There's no replacement coach, and 3 players have been announced just before the game that they'll be heading back to New Zealand. What were they playing for at the weekend?
I agree with what Kemp said. I reckon there was 2 ways it could have gone. It always seems to be the way with the Warriors. The first way was the one what we all wanted was, a couple of the lads are going to be leaving. Let's leave it all out there on the park, and let's all make it a wonderful farewell to them.
Never that way for the Warriors.
And
it's never going to be that way.
Well, I was foolish enough to think that could be a way, because I was disappointed by the result rather than expecting.
There's a point in that what you're just saying. There's 2 points here. Let's go back to the first one about what Ace is saying about Shaun Johnson. He should never have gone. You know what I mean? That was silly buggers, Smith and Sullivan, thinking that at the time when they let him go to market that there wasn't $1 million there, and heaven knows that the Valentine Holmes decides to go to the NFL. Shit, here's $1 million from Cronulla. We'll take him. This is Cronulla saying you don't get a marquee halfback come on the market, and they take Shaun Johnson. He's leading all the stats this year, I mean? I'm looking at that Cronulla side. They've got a decent side. There's still no Fafita. There's still no Moreland. So that's the first thing. They stuffed up big time. Johnson shouldn't have gone. Thinking that Nicarima was going to fill Johnson's boots, you got rocks in your head. The second part of the conversation is like what Mark said, is that if they haven't got the attitude to go out and play week in, week out, they've got nothing else there. They've got nothing else in Sydney, you know what I mean? Except to play footy. They train, they go and play. You think that the motivation would be there. So then you've got to analyse it and say, well, how come there's no motivation to play footy? Well, mate, seriously, and I'll say this from the bottom of my heart, they've got to get rid of some of those coaches. Get rid of Morgan, get rid of Tony Iro, who's been there since day dot. Maybe, and I'm looking at Todd Payton on the weekend, I'm thinking, mate, what you should do, if the 34-year-old Tony Kemp who got the sack from the Warriors could tell you something, I would go right in there and say, hey, I don't want the head coach's job. Okay, I'm quite happy to build my CV here at the Warriors and help you rebuild, but I want to stay here and keep my position, because his head's on the chopping block too, and keep Stacey Jones and build Stacey Jones. But I think what the players are letting you know is that this group of coaching staff cannot motivate them week in, week out. All right, and when you look at it from the players' perspective, They've got nothing else over there. They've got nothing else to do except play footy. You'd think that the motivation every week would be, hey, we're in our hotel room training and we want to come out and play on the weekend. But on the weekend, that effort when you've got wingers running through the middle of the ruck, mate, Todd Payne, the little hair that he's got, would be pulling the rest of it out.
The little hair that he's got. All right, can we take the focus off? Oh, what's going on? Just saying the Tigers. Can we take the focus off what happened with the Warriors just for a bit? Because there was an interesting ultimatum given to the Broncos head coach, which is
5 from 10. Win 5 from 10, mate.
Did the Warriors
50%.
miss a trick by not being able to do that to Stephen Kearney? Do you know? Because that's great buy-in now for a team that might have been slacking for a fan base or having an interesting storyline because they're slowly dropping out of their chance of getting the 8. Was there a chance that the Warriors could have gone, Kearney, just before you go?
You got 10 more games.
I think it's how idiotic is it? Okay, say he only wins 4, but he wins 4 by 40, and the rest of them he loses by a field goal. What?
Hey, we don't write the rules, man. We followed them. Sorry, you didn't win. You didn't win your 5.
It's just stupid. That is
You're
so
out.
stupid. I've never heard something more idiotic, and then they're going to fork out some money for him for another 3 years.
Did you get an ultimatum? Did they give you anything like that?
No, mate.
What would you do with it?
Mate, John Hart, he made me scones at home and bled me dry of what was going on at the club, and I wrote this massive report and missed the 8 by a couple of points, and basically never let the cat out of the bag that he had, all along he had me gone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a Kiwi back in an Aussie. I'm filthy on him. I still am till today, that he didn't allow that group to continue to build. But anyway, that's...
Have you ever spoken to him?
No, but what would you do? What would you do if that was an
I'll never speak to
ultimatum?
that guy again. No, he's a snake in the grass. I said that in Olsen's book, you know what I mean? The guy came in, it was all about him. So
I read that.
Tell me about whether, as a coach, in your head, if you've been given an ultimatum, how would you react to that? Would that motivate you? Would you be like, you know what?
back in those days, I probably would have not had the knowledge to say, you guys are trying to protect your own ass, because that's what White's doing at Brisbane. So it's the biggest smokescreen that in the history of rugby league is when you say to someone, "I'll give you 10 games," because what White's doing is he's changing the focus from where the real issue is, and the real issue is at the board level and at the CEO at the hands of the CEO. He was the guy, along with the board, that made the decision to hire Seibold from South and release Wayne Bennett for 5 years.
Yeah.
Not Seibold. So Seibold's come in and he obviously can't create, because I think he's got a decent side, he can't create that winning culture. So it's not 10 games. What White's saying is, man, my head's on the chopping block. We both got 10 games to go, but I'm going to throw all the heat on you so that it comes off me and I can go start looking for another job. You know, that's what's really going on here.
See, for me personally, I sit there and think, okay, the Warriors are looking for a new head coach. I don't want any extra competition with the head coaches that are going to be available.
They better hurry up because they lost Green. They're going to lose Seibold, and Cooney's gone. And there's 3 other coaches out there that are looking around for clubs.
And you think about the idea of Brisbane, and you look at their roster and what they would offer, and what's the more
Dean Pay's gone.
What's the more attractive option? And trying to convince a really good Aussie coach to come over here and do this job is slowly getting smaller and smaller when you see these good teams coming up with needing a new job as well. That's what worries me.
I've got a spanner for the works for the Warriors.
Go on, hit it.
I got a coach that I would probably consider if they're looking to interview some
Justin
coaches
Morgan
from around the world. I covered the Tongan internationals, and I interviewed Krisnan Wolf a couple of times, and I know he's over, I think it's St Helens, is he with St Helens at the moment? Yep. And he has a really good way of bringing the best out of players that probably aren't within that mould of, your average rugby league player, and I think we all know that the Warriors are, they love their tangata whenua, they like being at home, they play strong when they're around their whānau, and there's more to the Warriors than just, being based in Sydney, Tony, and playing rugby league. You're there to play rugby league, win your rugby league, play your rugby league, but for them it's about whānau and contentment and balance. And when I interviewed Krisnan, I thought to myself, you're a pretty good bloke, mate. Like, you've got something that would, offer something to some players from the Warriors that might be able to bring the best out of them. I don't even know if he's available, but I know that he might be available at the end of the year, and I'd probably prefer them to be having an interview with him than a couple of brothers that are loaded with heaps of coin that want to make an impact in the NRL.
I actually love
That's
that.
just another option for the Warriors.
I actually love that point. That's a great point. I'm on with you, Lavina. I think he's only lost 1 or 2 games over there as well. So, I mean, I was saying Helen, so it wouldn't be too hard. But
What about-
we've seen what he
did
done
to
with
that
Tonga.
side,
They beat Australia.
He took that Tongan side from a very average international
New
team
Zealand.
to believing
Yes.
in themselves that they could beat England and Australia and the Kiwis. And he's managed to enhance that through a team culture, through leadership and being a good leader and being a great communicator and understanding the players that he's in charge of. And I think we've made mistakes with the Warriors in the past. And I know everyone thought Stephen Kearney would tick all those boxes, but after a couple of years, he didn't. I don't know. I mean, we would think maybe Paul Green. He took a side to the Premiership in 2014, and we all remember Jonathan Thurston kicking that full goal. We remember the drop ball from Mr. Hunt. I laughed my head off when he dropped that ball. And I'm quite mean about that.
I just think that with the new coach, I don't think any coach who is looking to start their NRL career will come to the Warriors. And if they're smart, like you've got Fitzgibbon and coaches out there like that, and you look at Aidan
They'll stay with
O'Brien,
the Roosters.
they've all waited because they know they're capable, but they're just waiting for that right time to go in and get a good roster. I don't know if they will come over to this same
Inside
as Christian
then,
Wolf.
what you're saying is Wayne Bennett signing. That's what you're saying. We're looking for an old coach, sorry, an
someone
experienced
who's been there,
coach
like
is what they call it.
Tuvey, or someone who's looking to get back into the game instead of start their career.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's a really good. Let's take in a context what a couple of conversations have been this week. Let's put the first one to bed. People have been saying this for years. Let's go and relocate to Sydney. Yeah, that's working, isn't it? What do you reckon?
Yeah, no, that hasn't worked so
okay,
far.
so let's put that to bed. The other one that people are saying is let's get a good coach and bring every game to New Zealand next year.
Home game, every
home game.
Every home game. Well, that doesn't make sense because every home game they're playing at home anyway.
Yeah. No. They said what was the rumor was?
Let's play every
The
game
24 of the 26 games would be played at Mount
at home.
Smart.
That's right. So let's bring all the games home. Yep.
Yeah.
So every game is a home game. Yeah. Well, even if you are the best coach with the stock that they got, it ain't going to make any difference.
Why though?
Really? Well,
because no. But
let's say from here to the beginning of next year that they ain't going to sign anyone.
Cool.
So they've got who they got. They got the marquee signings is Masala out of Warrington. Yep. They got no one else. The Greenie's gone. They got Tiger Man here. He fit the suit. He fit the Warriors suit.
Ben Murdoch-Masila, great time.
Murdoch Masala.
Masilla's good.
They
I
got
like Masilla.
they got no Greenie.
Masilla and Krisnan.
So they got no Greenie. I reckon the hooker's average at best. I know there's people saying that he's going all right. I reckon he's average at best. And you got Nicarima he's enigmatic.
Well,
he's he's in and out.
we know though that he can play. Like he's shown us when he can play.
But you think that personally, what I'm trying to get at, you think that a coach is the answer?
No. Well, you just said before that we really thought that they had a chance against Cronulla. That means that we think they've got a roster to be able to win games. It's just that the coaches have failed to get the team up. So if you go and put a coach in there that can get the team up, that means that we still have a roster, even if Greenie's gone and we've put, I don't know.
So that's my point. That's my point. So it's not just the coach. It's also you're going to have to replace Green. Yeah?
Yeah.
You're going to have to go and buy the young Melbourne hooker. It looks like Grant's going to go back. Lavina's, he's head of the...
I love him. I would buy him.
What do you
If I
call
had
it?
all
The
the money in
Dalians.
the
He's
world,
heading
I
the
would buy
Dalians
Harry
at the
Grant.
moment. Go and get the young Melbourne hooker. Bring a couple of marquee players here and then show the structure that you're actually going to... Because that's why a coach will come. He'll say, well, what's your structure looking like? What's your development model looking like? No one's talking about that. They're not talking about a long-term plan, and just going to get a couple of blokes out of Brisbane, the Walker brothers, you know what I mean? It's like...
Well, this was...
That's left field.
They were talking about this on 360 last night, and they were talking about the fact that the Walker brothers pitch was really, really well done. Like, the pitch is... We see so much talent in that team. We're not looking to build a 3-year plan. We don't care about what structures you played. We can win right now with that team. And if we don't, we're quite happy to go back. And they don't need the money, was one of the main things that they said. They've got businesses, and they would come over and they would give it a damn good shot with the roster that they have and make them win. And if they couldn't turn them around, they would walk straight back home and still be earning money through their companies.
I don't know. Like I've seen them what they did in the Q Cup, the Queensland Cup, and they took a team. They didn't have the biggest names, but they made the grand final and were real exciting.
Yeah.
But their thing was sort of
was
like,
great.
you score 30, we'll score 40. I think a lot of the time.
Love that.
So I don't know. Like I'd love to see it. It's entertaining football.
But you know what? It's like rolling out Sunline up against a paddock horse out of New Plymouth. You know what I mean? And Q Cup NRL. Like let's remember the levels that we're at. It's like putting Mal Meninga in the Fox Memorial here. You know, so just because you've got two coaches that have done well in the Q Cup, mate, you've got coaches that have done well in every grade throughout the competitions everywhere. But they get to NRL, you've just had 4 coaches sacked in the last 3 months.
That's the thing.
Great.
I'd love to see their structure implemented in the NRL at some stage. I just don't think the Warriors is the right time because the Warriors fans, as we know, and everyone, it's been a long time since we've had success.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
has.
but we're not winning. We're not win. This is the thing. It's been a long time since we've had success, which is fine. We've dealt with a long time. We can deal with a couple more years. Like, if they're going to work, this is the 2, right? These are the 2 to inject in right now. And if they lose, well, what are we doing this season anyway?
So say we win next year,
So
but
put 'em in
then
place
the
tomorrow.
rest, so then the rest of it, but then the next 5-6 years, we're gone again. Like, why not have someone who's going to come in and go,
It's been
okay,
26 years have
we're
gone
slowly
again.
we're slowly building, and then we get there.
You know
Comes
what?
down to recruitment.
And then we're there for 10 years.
That's like
We're
saying
there
that,
for
but
10 years.
everybody's doing that. Everybody is doing that.
Well, so you just want to win for a year?
I don't care. Just win.
I think
win a year. I would
you-
rather have 1 year winning than trying like everybody else is to create a dynasty.
Put your ball bags back in your pants, you two, and listen to what Lavina's saying.
Right, sorry.
Recruitment.
All right,
It
it's
comes down to recruitment. We talked about it in
100%.
episode 1 of League and Order. We might, there might be a year where you're a champion and you might be able to build a season around a super coach or a back rower. But in terms of recruitment, it comes down to a 5-year plan. So if you're going to bring a coach in, you need to change the whole recruitment policy. You need to have the coach and the recruitment officers and their management team all on the same page. And you need to have literally a 6-year structured, tiered plan and saying this
Or
is what
longer.
we're going to do this year, next year, next year. And I don't know if Seabold presented that to the Broncos. I don't think he did. I think he just had a young team and promised finals, and whether or not he's living up to his expectation, I'm not sure. But with the Warriors, I've always thought to myself, the recruitment policy, the players that are coming through and that are being lost is saying to us there's no longevity with the club, and the fans deserve longevity.
And that's the thing. The recruitment, we don't need people over there. We've got people. Like, you can't tell me Trent Robinson made Joseph Manu a freak. Like, he got selected in that Roosters team because he was a good footy player. He's from New Zealand. Like, get those people. Like, not so much recruitment going out there. You've got it here in your own backyard. You need to get a structure. Like, we've spoke about this for half an hour outside. You need a structure set up from the ground up where it's going to get kids, teach kids how to play football, keep them in a system. I don't know the answers, but there needs to be something done.
The answer is really simple, and you're dead right. We do have the talent. The thing about exploring talent in Australia, mate, you've got such a wide pool of talent here. You've got so many rugby union schools. They all play league. The boys, you know what I mean. They come through the grades. They're both playing rugby league and rugby union still. But you have no structure, and there's the major concern that we have here, and it's a nice lead in this, Lavina, into what you're talking, is that recruitment just isn't about the Warriors. It's about the New Zealand Rugby League that has no development structure at any level above their under 12 grade. So you get to intermediate, there is no structure in schools from intermediate to high school back into clubs. It's dead. Districts are dead. There's no district competitions, all right? So that's the first problem that the Warriors have. Because so what happens is that the districts ask the NRL clubs to come in, and that's why Joseph Manu's gone to Sydney City. That's why Brandon Smith has gone to Melbourne, is because those clubs just come over and they cherry pick. We've said this on a podcast before, like, ban them from doing that. Allow New Zealand and the New Zealand Rugby League to develop inside. But the biggest problem is leadership from the NRL that look at the cream. Their franchise is McDonald's Big Mac burgers, all right? It's not cheeseburgers, which is New Zealand district football. They want the cream. And what happens is that the people with no idea at the New Zealand Rugby League allow them to pick the cream. And they just try and say, this is all about the New Zealand top end. Unfortunately, all the kids in the groups below, they just go to other clubs. And that's where you get your Joseph Manus and stuff like that. So you've got those two groups. And the biggest people that have been left out in the cold are the district with 60 to 70% of participation is the Auckland Rugby League. All right? They're constantly battling with the Warriors, and they're constantly battling with the New Zealand Rugby League. And until those three entities come together, we will not finally win a premiership, not for 1 year, for 2 years, we'll win it forever. But it's about getting those three guys in bed together to make sure that they're all headed in the same direction. Because there is no pathway in this country. You know what I mean? Roger Tuivasa-Sheck came through a school system, played for the schools in 2010. Sullivan said, I spotted him. No, you didn't. He was going to sign for the Warriors, mate. You know, he ended up going there because he got 100 grand as opposed to 10 grand. You know what I mean? They took a punt on him. They come through our system, except we don't have a structure to keep them here to play in our system.
Yeah, I think that as I look over the Blues team, the other Auckland team that's happening at the moment, and they've got like 10 first fives. And some of them they've brought in, you know, I mean, Carter and Bodie Barrett, they've been brought in recently. But the likes of a Perifeta and Plummer, those boys are like, they're really good players, right? And they're really handy kickers, and their first fives have got that mindset of a player who would fit quite easily into a rugby league team in a position we could really utilise. These guys have obviously been... Rugby's been the sexy pick. That's what they've wanted to play. That's their passion. That's what they want to do. But there's so many players like that around this district ready to go, just need to be recruited, put on the right tracks, coached well, and then put through the system that we would be able to pluck up, because they're not all making it. They're not all making it in rugby. So they're like, whatever. But yeah, there's so many gems just waiting to be picked, especially in the number 10s around the high school.
It's the last time you bring up rugby union on the show.
Oh,
mate.
wow. I saw your move drop.
Love it,
Your move
brother.
drop. Mate, that's the big comp.
That soft game.
That's the big comp, though. That's where the real top-end talent is headed. And how to get that top-end talent to play rugby league, because they'd be bloody good at it, and they're not all going to make a super
Well, you're
rugby
not going
side.
to get it. You're not going to get it when you've got an NSO that is functioning at trying to get funding to pay for the cream of the crop at the top.
Yeah.
All right? It's about the bottom of the triangle. The foundation members, which are your districts where I came from, a small town with 3,000 people, like, you need to be in there. You need to be getting those kids, because not all the best kids come from Auckland, but the best development models include everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There is such a discrepancy in our game of rugby league.
It's expensive, though, to go and scout down there, though.
There's this one quote out there, okay? It's about rugby union is amateur, but it's run by professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Rugby league has been professional for a long time, and it's run by amateurs. You know?
Quote.
Expensive amateurs.
Well, look, I sent that out last week.
God.
Yeah, here's a
God.
here's a
Here
point.
we go.
I sent that out.
Tangent, Tony,
You
there's a
got
tangent.
7 people. You got 7 people earning more money than the game gets money directly put into it. You know what I mean? So that says a lot. How the hell can you develop a game when less than 3% of your annual income, your annual turnover, is spent back on the game in this country? It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science.
I've got to get a job at New Zealand Rugby League.
Well, mate, you should put your head in the ring, because anyone can get a job in there. You get paid well too.
I deserve
You pay
that.
real well.
I deserve that. All right,
You're
so
not going to get a job there, Tony. You're not going to get a job there.
Never again.
Let's go Tigers.
I feel like we've hit a place where we can move forward.
Yeah.
We've already talked about the odds. Was there anything in particular anyone wanted to bring up from the round? Because, I mean, I felt like there was a couple of upsets in there, even though the Titans and the Broncos and the Warriors all
How'd
got
the Knights go?
They were.
mate.
Oh,
2 points.
mate, they were good, but
They're gonna win it all.
Man, they really almost gave that away, didn't they?
They were choking there at
That
one
was
stage.
awful.
They spat it out though in the end.
Oh.
I would like to make an official apology to a man that listens to our podcast, Dally Cherry Evans, because I bagged him last week. And I knew that the Eels in first place were taking on Manly, who were missing Tommy. And I was like, you can't play without him. You're playing hopeless. And he had a sensational game. So I'm officially apologising to you, Dally. I know you listen to this show. I know you're a little bit peeved that we bagged you out and you wanted to prove
We
something
didn't bag
different.
you out. It was Lavina, mate.
That's
You,
right.
mate.
Just me.
Massive fan of DCE.
That's an official apology. And in terms of the Tigers, that Harry Grant at hooker, I mean, Tony mentioned it at the very first podcast, the difference, the teams with the new rules about how their hookers were and their number 9s were going to play such an impact throughout the year. And I think I underestimated what you said up until recently when I've been, watching Damien Cook for the Bunnies and also Harry
How
Grant.
quick
for
is
the
he at
Tigers.
it,
He
Dunny?
makes so many yards, and is always there for not just a try scoring opportunity, but is so hungry on attack and defence and almost plays like 3 players in one. And he's little and he's determined, and I know he's leading the Dally M Awards at the moment, and I think he deserves to be there. He's amazing at the moment. He's certainly got my cap at the weekend.
You know the thing about him though, which is so good, is he's not overawed because he's got Benji who's back, and he had a great game on the weekend. Benji, and then you had Billy Walters, who sort of only second or third NRL, but he knows when to run and he knows when to pass.
Yeah,
like
timing.
it's not, and he's only had so many games. Like to have that, I suppose it speaks about how much you can learn under Cameron Smith at Melbourne. But mate, they were outstanding on the weekend. I think Benji wound it back a bit, and he's up there, Dally M's too.
Yeah, look, I think Cameron Smith's got a. We talked about this when you're signing players, marquee players who've been one club players. They should sign them for life at a club. I reckon Cameron Smith is going to be their first player. I think he's going to step out of playing directly into coaching, replace Balliet. I think it's just the natural progression. And Cameron Smith is the one saying, Harry Grant, he's our hooker.
Yeah.
I can work with this kid. I can give him the knowledge to do what I did for Melbourne and continue that legacy. So it's no surprise you got Harry Grant and Cameron Smith 1 or 2 on the Daily M's. But the other part why I made that comment right at the beginning about the hookers and the impact that they have on games is because of the rule changes that they made, which brought footballers back into the spotlight. And the footballers are really relishing a decent hooker. You know what I mean? If you've got a really smart hooker who knows when to run, knows when to pass, you have a look at your marquee player. Look at the Morris brothers.
Yeah, amazing.
Mate,
Jennings.
Look at Jennings performed centre.
From Marnie.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how well the hooker. If the hooker's going really well, your team generally, and that's what I say about he's a runner. The Warriors hooker, he's a run of the mill bloke. You know what I mean? We need someone that can tempo the game up and bring it up, bring it down. Just Shaun Johnson on the weekend. Mate, he didn't even get it. I don't think he got his jersey dirty. You know what I mean? He just sort of dust off the tuxedo and he just had a run in the park type thing. But our hookers, like the Harry Grant. Go throw your checkbook at Harry Grant.
What I got from that is, hey, it's a great year to be a Tiger. That's all I got.
Hey, look, I do think the best hookers are going to go to the grand final.
Yep.
The best hooker. So
my Eels boy doesn't agree. He never thought he'd win a premiership. Madison didn't think he'd win a premiership with the Tigers.
Yeah, they won't win the next 9 games.
Eels,
they're gone.
Mate, hey, how much does that mean? Where's their depth? Like, no Madison, and you've got Brad Takarangi, who's a quite capable footy player, great footy player, but he had to come in and play back row, and then you've got Ferguson out. Like, there's 2 players, and their depth wasn't the best. So to get further, they got to hope no more injuries come.
Lost by 4 points, Blake. Lost by 4 points.
Yeah, against the Manly team.
Against the Manly team that had nobody in
See
there.
you there at the end. We'll see you there at the end, eh? I'm just going to sit back and watch it and enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
I feel like speaking of the end, it was the end for Paul Green. Was that always on the case, do you think? Or
well, they talked about
because you didn't mention him on the hot seat.
No,
you didn't mention him on the hot seat. You've said Seabold for a while, and you had your thoughts, but you didn't mention Green.
Mate, Seabold's he's dead man walking. He's gone.
Mate, he's got 5 games to prove himself.
Well, I tell you what, I reckon if they lose on the weekend, I reckon he's gone on Monday. Seabold.
Even after the 5 out of 10.
But they can't change the rules.
It's a smoke screen, mate.
Because I would come.
How bad are you feeling?
If I lost this weekend, and they did that to me, I'd be like, whoa! I was just building momentum. I'm allowed to lose a couple more before I need to start winning.
He'd probably walk anyway. You know what I mean? You come into a press conference saying I've got nothing to talk to you about. I just don't know what to do anymore. The week before I let them run their own shit. And then I jump back on this week and we get pumped by 40 points. You know what I mean? Like he's burying himself. I think they're going to make a decision for him. Their majority owners come out this week, and said they look like they're all on Valium. I bet you he's in there saying you better sort this coaching thing out. I'm pulling my funding out.
Did you see? Going back to Paul Green. I don't know if you've seen his interview after the game. It was pretty smart what he said. He goes, it's hard to coach at the moment because he's got kids that are coming up who he's still got to teach the game to, but then he's got other people. And that's why I thought, that's pretty intelligent. I think they'll give him a bit more time to, and he's got a good track record with them. I understand he had Jonathan Thurston and players like that, but they did win a comp, and I thought
And
they would have given him a bit
finals,
more.
four
Yeah,
finals.
exactly. I thought they would have given him a bit more time, especially after that interview. I mean, it was really intelligent coming from him to sit there and just
It's the same
explain to
problem we got
people.
over here, like our kids come through and their athletes and their core skills are a little bit behind where they should be at the NRL. That's what I was talking about before when you're saying Q Cup. You know what I mean? Like Q Cup to NRL, you're always going to say the coaches, the main coaches, saying that they just don't have the skill level that we have to reteach them to play in the top level. So, mate, just going back to the coaches who are being dismissed, it's sort of like. It's like the societal reflection of what's actually happening in business, as well as that clubs are using this as an opportunity to start pushing people out. When was the last time that we'd have 5 coaches sacked by the middle of the season?
Never. Can't
Never.
remember the last time.
You know what I mean?
Never. Not in the NRL.
Yeah, I can see this happening with the Warriors. Is that yes, they've got rid of their coach early, but there's still more to follow. And I'm about this, and I do feel empathy towards them on the weekend. Look, they lose 4 players that come home. It's really hard to replace, especially 2 of them. Pussy put on the biggest hit of the game, and he's gone too. And then they got to bring in some young blokes that may be up to scratch, but what a first challenge coming up against Sydney City. You know what I mean? It's just I do feel some empathy towards them. So it is a great time to restructure, just like what a lot of the warehouse have done the same thing over the last couple of days. You know what I mean? This COVID thing is, I think every club that's looking at it going, shit, we've actually got an opportunity here. Let's sweep it out.
Oy, oy, oy. Well, looking forward to hearing that the Walker brothers will be the new replacement in the next couple of days. What are we thinking for this? Like, so you've given Seabold this game. That's it. You reckon they'll change everything up as soon as that happens. If they loses this weekend, it's off the deal's off the table.
He's on his way out.
Mate, I reckon White hasn't got any right to offer Seabold a 10-game option.
That's rude.
That's just more pressure on me.
It's like. Thank you very much, man. Like how often have we heard it? How often have we heard the CEO come out and go, "No, your job's safe, mate. We're backing him." Oh, I think we heard that. I think we heard that about Mooks last year. He's the bloke to take us forward. Just sign him for a 3-year contract. You know what I mean? Come on.
You have said that.
You're going to listen to the CEO. You know, the CEO puts the pressure on the coach because he knows he's under the pump himself.
Oh.
I tell you what, the Raiders did the Warriors no favours by beating the Roosters, and that was a great game. And I didn't expect them to win because they were low on numbers and missing Hodgson, and the injury toll had just grew. But they played a great game of footy that replayed the grand final. I love watching it. I found myself cheering for the Raiders in the second half, but the Roosters don't lose 2 in a row. So even though that $10 bet's there waiting for you, Mark, I'd be a little hesitant, buddy.
Yeah, well, no, I'm looking through this week's round 11 games and trying to think where I'd find money and value.
And I think maybe Blake and I'll have a bet on the Thursday night.
No, I think you should.
Tigers.
I think there should be a little wager.
Bottle of red, bottle of Shiraz.
Oh yeah, all right.
Does she deliver? Have you got your Shiraz yet, Tony?
No, I'm going to go down and drink it with her.
Busy people, mate. We're busy people.
I want that the Goldie in the background as well. I'll take a bit. I'll take the Goldie in the background. What about that?
I'm changing the angle. I'm changing the sky.
So the Broncos have the Storm, just FYI. And Tony's already said, look, Seabold, contract gone if you don't win that one. I can't see that happening. I can't see much value in that game either. Warriors, Roosters, we've already discussed that. We don't need to go any further. What's the game of the round if we were looking through? What's the fight what's the top fight card? There's not a lot because the Panthers are going to destroy the Titans.
How good are the Panthers going?
Oh, top of the table, good.
They're great. Not just for being the top of the table, but for the fact that they've come together, and even when Nathan Cleary wasn't playing, they were still playing well. And their attack is flawless. I think I might have texted you Blake a couple of nights ago, but it's the attack from them is flawless. They're so comfortable in attack. Nothing is fabricated or trying too hard. It just comes natural to them. Yep. And it took years to get to that place. I mean, at the end of last year, they were ravaged by injuries, missing 7 players in their first grade side. And, they were touted as making through to the final and were just scraping their way through. But at the moment, every time they've got the ball in hand, it doesn't matter if they're try-scoring end or if they're within 5 of their own line. Every time they have the ball in hand, they make yards, and everything's coming together for them. And if you were looking for a dark horse a few weeks ago, you would put some money on the Panthers going all the way, I reckon.
The worst.
I really like them to do that.
The worst thing for the NRL is the majority of their squad's only about 23, 24.
Exactly.
If they can keep them together, oh mate, it can
It's
be
like
a dynasty.
Cleary haunting us, Shaun Johnson haunting us.
Ivan.
There's a lot of that 2003 Warriors side in the way that Ivan's got that side going. You know what I mean? He's got the Ali Lautiti out on the left edge and Kikau. He's got two really good young centres. His wingers are on fire. He's got the standalone fullback plays a little bit like what Ivan used to play like, and just some big forwards taking the ball forward. So. And I think what his style of coaching, Ivan's style of coaching, having that experience as a player back in the early 2000s and then through his run with the Warriors, is really it's appreciated with the rule changes. He's really brought the players on. That young kid out in the centres that they've got out there, they're Crichton, the 18-year-old. I look at him and I go, man. That's another one that you'd go and sign
Young,
tomorrow.
adaptable. They're easily
but
to adapt.
they're enjoying like Lavina said it. They look like they're really enjoying the style of football that they're playing.
It's effortless when they're attacking. It's effortless.
Well, then the game of the round would have to be the Tigers Eels, wouldn't it?
Step up to your mic.
Sorry, the game of the round would have to be the Tigers Eels.
Yes.
Yeah,
we'll let you have that.
I think so. I don't know.
That's
I don't know
a
the rest of
terrible
the
round.
games.
I'm just looking through I'm looking through the round. Let me rattle it off. That's a pretty terrible round. We'll start with Eels West Tigers. That's probably the best game. We go Cowboys Sea Eagles. Will the Cowboys bounce back? I'm just trying to think of the headlines for each one. Broncos Storm. Well, that's a shit storm. Did you like that one, Tony? Warriors Roosters. I mean, come on. As much as the most hardiest Warriors fans, they know we're about to head into it. Sharks.
Like a scary movie. Watch it through a little hole.
Yeah, Sharks Dragons. That's. Yeah, Raiders, Rabbitohs. Again, there's no real kind of, whoa, here we go. Knights, Bulldogs, Titans, Panthers.
Raiders, Rabbitohs will be one I'm looking forward to.
Okay,
actually.
well, you can have that one on Saturday, right at the end of
I'm
Saturday.
looking forward to that. That'll be my Super Saturday footy watch.
I think we're going to get what we had last week. I think we're going to have game of the round up first, and it'll be the Eels West Tigers who comes back.
I can't pick my nose at the moment. I picked the Warriors. I thought the Bulldogs had come in. They got out to a 20-point start. You know what I mean? It's just
the old. What is it? The old coach rule. Whenever they lose a coach the next week, they always seem to go good.
That's why I backed them. I thought, Dean Pay's got. That's what I'm thinking about this week. I'm backing the Cowboys. I think with new coach in there, the boys are. The difference with Craig Green is he used to bag them, mate. You know what I mean? He was into them all the time. So they're probably taking a big deep breath, the boys this week, and going, we can just go and play. They won't know how to deal with
all this positivity, this camaraderie, this confidence. They'll be like,
too much good stuff.
And he's down at Brisbane at the moment. Anyway,
well, if you're going to book if you're going to back the Cowboys, I suggest Lavina have one more go at Daly Cherry Evans, and you watch those Eagles fly.
Yeah, I know. I'm still a bit bad because I've got a couple of mates that are Manly fans, and they do listen actually over in Australia. Fair enough, and they took the mickey out of me because it was my team versus their team. And I remember saying at the beginning, you got no chance. There's no chance. You watch Daly miss the kicks and no attacking flair on his kick, and that was literally just before he scored a try. I'm thinking, what is going on here? What is going on? But you watch Parramatta fight back. We can like that.
I've got to admit,
we're down on numbers. We'll fight back because Captain Clint. Come on, Blake. You love Clint. You love Clint.
I know you
too much
carry on.
You love Mr. Gutherson.
No Sevo. Sevo's gone too. So no Sevo. No Ferguson. No Madison.
On the Tigers.
Hey, before we go, can we get one full bicep curl?
Yeah, look at that. Fly him in. Look, they're looking for players in Sydney too. The Warriors. They can fly old Ace back in, mate.
I think halfway through
they need a front row.
Potty, I think you'll see it.
He can replace Pussy.
A bit of the belly.
Good times. There couldn't be a more fitting place for a little bit of belly viewing. Not that I'm going to mention any All Black game in a certain Stephen Donald in a tight shirt. None of that. Hey, guys, well, let's call it there then. We're looking at a round of rugby league that is kind of not as enticing as what we had last week. We're thinking that the Eels West Tigers game will be the game of the round on Thursday, but we are also looking forward to the Raiders Rabbitohs. Fair analysis?
Yeah, look, before we go now, let's just have a look at a few of the smart coaches resting some of their players up too, leading into the finals. We've got nine rounds out. We're going to get a couple of teams that are going to look like their players will get a bit of a break before they come in and start to hit these final rounds.
Yeah, clever rugby league, mate. Clever rugby league.
Yeah, we don't have that luxury, do we?
No, they're looking for players. Jump on a plane, Ace.
Get in there, Ace. All right, team, let's
Bring
see.
back, all happy for about Jazz Tabunga, bringing back a bit of Biff as well. If you're going to come back after being out, and everyone's talking about the hookers in the competition, come in and play any role and bash the shit out of
Can
someone.
we just make a rule? If we go down by 30, let's just start swinging. Let's just ruckus. That always makes me feel better as a fan.
Not by 30.
They really
Not
want
by
it.
30. Won't go down by 30. It's not going to be by 30.
We
There's
will-
odds
we
about
will be
that.
struggling
Put
for
money on
players.
that.
All right, team. See you next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.